when we go through the canal. And I'll cover that in my pictorial tomorrow. So just to give you an example, here's a slide that occurred back in May of 1913. In the right foreground, the picture shows the stair-step manner in which they cut the slopes after they've been excavated. And these stair steps also are shown again here on the left. So they were put in to help avoid the huge slides, but some of these slides were so big that this method of trying to prevent them didn't always work. It wasn't always successful. And that continues to be true today in certain areas of the canal. So the force of this particular landslide was great enough to knock over one of the big steam shovels. They weigh tons. But even though many of the hillsides were being dug, but they are, of course, still very unstable, a lot of the excavation work, and again, due to the geology of the area, had to be blasted with dynamite before they could dig it out. There was a total of somewhere in the neighborhood of 61 million pounds of dynamite were used in the construction of the Panama Canal. So at least half of these workers were involved in the drilling and blasting operations with that 61 million pounds of dynamite. So getting rid of all the dirt from the cuts and the slides was a major effort. The U.S. engineers developed a new kind of dirt-carrying rail car in order to increase the efficiency and expedite this operation. And also in the construction of the canal, especially at the locks, used the concrete to build tall vertical walls up to 81 feet high. Well, this was an innovation because concrete up until that time was mainly used for horizontal slabs. So the fact that these locks are still in operation with the same basic mechanisms is truly, truly a testimony to their skills as designers and builders. So the first concrete for the Panama Canal, well, was placed on August 25th, 1908. This was the beginning of over 4.5 million cubic yards of concrete to be placed in the construction of the canal, and of course, in particular, the locks. So the work, well, it was one of the few parts of the project that was farmed out to independent contractors whose expertise was in working with concrete. So the lock gates and Miraflores, these are the largest of the three sets of locks. The gates are the largest. This is because on the Pacific side there are tidal fluctuations and they have to accommodate for that. So these gates weigh over 700 tons apiece. So all the gates, however, are 7 feet thick and they're hollow and they are airtight. So with this design, they tend to float in the water, thus needing less power to move them to open and close the gates. Very, very ingenious. Well, here's an explosion that they used to remove a dike, and this took place under a big ceremony, because, you know, they had to divert water, and then they diked it, and then they went in and built the locks. And then when it was time for the locks, when they were completed, for the water to flow into them, they got rid of the dikes. So 4 days later, water flowed into the Miraflores lock for the first time, October 14th, 1913. But now the locks could be tested and prepared for the first transit of vessels. On August 3rd, 1914, the SS Cristobal made the first recognized transit through the canal. However, it was the beginning of World War I, and that was the front page news, and actually this got moved to the back page. You know, during all the time of the construction of the canal, tour groups would come down from various countries to observe the construction of the canal. And remember our friend Maria, the Frenchman who really was instrumental in all of this taking place? Well, he was on that ship for that first transit. The official opening of the Panama Canal was declared for passage from ocean to ocean officially, and this was the ship that did it, the SS Ancon, August 15th, 1914. So when the canal completed, the cost of constructing the canal between the French effort and the American effort could now be tallied and added up, and this is what it looks like. This is what the U.S. spent, that's what France spent, and there you see the estimated total cost for the completion of building the Panama Canal. So of course it was costing human life, and this is a projection by the French and the U.S. This is how many deaths that they estimated and how many lives it cost to build the Panama Canal. With the opening of the Panama Canal, this meant tremendous savings of miles for ships that had to sail from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, going around the tip of South America. It shortened the voyage by 7,800 miles as compared to sailing around South America. So this illustrates Panama Canal traffic. You can see how many transits there used to be and how much it has increased. And cargo tonnage, you can see an enormous increase in cargo tonnage going through the Panama Canal. And you can see tolls collected from when it first opened in 1915 and what the tolls amount to today, or, well, in 2007, according to this chart. So with this increased traffic, that's why the Panamanian government is now expanding the Panama Canal. So this is a little footnote. It was the year 1999 when President Jimmy Carter handed over the Panama Canal lock, stock, and barrel to the Panamanian government. I have a little analogy for you about the expansion. It's essentially like adding a lane to an interstate highway. So the new locks will parallel the three current locks. So just give you an idea of how much revenue has increased for the Panamanians, for the traffic going through the canal. This is in millions of balboas. Balboas is a local currency, but it's on parity with the U.S. dollar. In other words, one balboa equals one U.S. dollar. So this is a conceptual location of New Lock. Like I said, it's like adding a lane to an interstate. So you can see where they have the current channels. Now they're going to build this new three-step lock right next to it. They're putting in these new water-saving basins. And that's the way it's happening all along the Panama Canal. There are some old channels that were dug during the early 1940s by the United States. They will be incorporated into the new expansion. Also, when we have our daytime transit, the Panamanians will bring on their own narrator. It'll be broadcasted on the PA system all throughout the ship. They will put instructions out for you how to get out to the bow. Oftentimes people ask me, where's the best place to be? It changes. It depends. You might be out on the ladle deck and watching another ship come up to the locks behind us, or it might be watching the traffic in front of us from the bow, or there might be something off to the side from the rails on deck 6. So it changes. Best way I can put it is, it just depends where the action is. So give you an idea of the expansion project. Currently, they can take vessels that are 965 feet in length, and with the new set of locks, that'll increase to 1,200 feet. Currently, the width of the canal is 106, and that's going to increase tremendously as well. So for the new set of locks, here's just a cost estimate of what the Panamanians are investing in the expansion. So it is indeed another enormous project. at the Panama Canal. I think their target date is approximately 2014, but again, it's a target date. So this is the motto for the Panama Canal. I think it's very appropriate, and so simply says, the land divided, the world united. The Panama Canal. Thank you.